So we're finishing up the book of Judges today, and the civil war between the rest of Israel and the tribe of Benjamin has just ended. And the Israelites are so mad at Benjamin, at the Benjaminites, that they say, we're not going to give them any of our women to marry. We're going to make this a rule, a law. We cannot give any of the tribe of Benjamin, none of those men are going to be allowed to marry any of our women. But what happens is then the Benjaminites are going to vanish because they're not supposed to marry any of the pagans who surround them. So this is, in effect, a kind of genocide. At least it will be in the next generation, because if none of the men of Benjamin are allowed to marry, you won't have more Benjaminites being made. And so the Israelites realize they've gone a little too far. It's kind of like Jephthah swearing to kill the first thing that walks out of his house, and it happens to be his daughter. So they've gone a little too far, but they've made a vow. So what are they going to do? This is a law. Well, they get a great idea. They have a gathering and they realize that nobody from Jabesh Gilead has shown up at this gathering. Well, then they've got an out. And they say, let's go to Jabesh Gilead and we'll kill everybody. But we'll just take we'll take their virgins, we'll take some of the women, and then we'll be fine. So that's what they do. But there's not enough women to go around, and the Benjaminites are still complaining. And the rest of Israel, they say, we really have caused a problem here. We have a law and a vow. We can't give them we can't give them any of our virgins, any of our women to marry. But we can stick to the letter of the law and avoid the spirit of the law. Here's what we'll do. There's going to be this big festival at Shiloh where the tabernacle of the Lord is in these days. And when there is this festival once a year, the virgins come out and dance. So they say to the men of Benjamin, here's what you're going to do. You lay in wait. And when the virgins come out and dance, you pounce on them and kidnap them and turn them into your wives. And the Benjaminites probably say, well, yeah, but what if their fathers and brothers are mad at us for doing this? Don't worry, don't worry. We'll take care of it. We'll talk to them and we'll say, look, we're in a bind. We can't give them young women to marry from any of our other 11 tribes of Israel. We can't give them any women to marry, but they can take some women to marry. So we won't be guilty. So just let them go. Let them kidnap your daughters. And that way the tribe of Benjamin won't disappear and we'll still be true to our law. Really, the best way to sum this up is how the author sums it up. In those days, there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their eyes. Yeah, just like today. At any rate, then we have St. James, who talks a little bit about wisdom. And I think perhaps this is, although he didn't intend it to be, this can be an unintended commentary on many of the deeds we're reading about in the book of Judges, including this one that we just discussed. James says, who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show it by their good life. In other words, it's kind of like just demonstrate your faith by your works. Well, if you're wise, demonstrate your wisdom by your good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such so-called wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. The Benjaminites certainly had that. So do the Israelites in the days of the judges. So there's that earthly, unspiritual, demonic wisdom that is marked by envy and selfish ambition. And then it will produce disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven or that comes from above is first of all pure, then peace loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. So if you're ever wondering who you should really listen to or pay attention to in the world, even what politicians you should follow and vote for, uh, what people you should read, watch their videos on YouTube, if they're worldly wise, they will bear the fruits of envy, discord, disorder, And all the stuff we're reading about in Judges, if the wisdom they have is from above, heavenly wisdom, there will be a kind of peace and order, and there will be the good fruits of that. Ye shall know them by their fruits. In the same way that faith is demonstrated by works, so wisdom is the quality of wisdom is demonstrated by the kinds of works it produces. So I think that's puts an end to the book of Judges. We've read about a lot of interesting things, but here at the end in the last few chapters, it really has been about what happens when people give up the source of true wisdom, God, when they live without a king, both without a king on earth and without a king in their hearts. And when they live that way, they do the kinds of things we read about. The stuff we're reading about here at the end of Judges is typical. In fact, it's mild compared to the way history goes. This is history. One darned thing after another, and people behaving terribly. And what rescues us from that is our Savior and our response to him and the true wisdom which comes from above.